Today, Poly Champions brings you a strategy guide on Oumaji. This tribe is all about riders, which means aggressive expansion, optimized attacks and retreats, and getting giants efficiently. We'll show you basic, intermediate, and advanced tips from the best Polytopia players in the world. Also, since Oumaji won the official Polytopia tribe duels, we are celebrating the Hamu with some tribe propaganda. Keep your eyes open for the Oumaji ad later in this video. Plus, we have a special collection of Oumaji merch made by our fan artists. See a link to the merch store in the description. Okay, let's learn to play Oumaji. First, the basics: expansion, rider tactics, the organization tech, and the slingshot maneuver. Like all tribes in the early game, you want to expand to claim villages and ruins before your opponent does. Unlike other tribes, Oumaji's not-so-secret weapon is the rider, which can move twice as much as a warrior. Oumaji starts with the riding tech and one rider. Now move your rider towards resources that indicate a village nearby, or at least move towards the middle of the map and get a second rider. 2 riders will help you cover ground faster. Usually, you send your second rider in a different direction than the first rider. Remember, the goal in the early game is to get to those ruins and villages fast. Oumaji has way less animals and forests than other tribes, only 20% of normal, and half the number of mountains. But the fruit and farm rates are normal. Since Oumaji has a decent amount of fruits and farms in their terrain, for almost all maps, you want to get organization before you capture your first village. Use those 2 guaranteed fruit around your capital for a workshop there. Upgrade cities and choose an explorer where you suspect your opponent might be. Typically, you want an explorer in your second or third city. Not only will explorers get you vision on your opponent, but clearing out the fog allows more range for your riders. As for riders, they have 2 attack, 1 defense, and the escape ability. Escape is what makes these units so useful. Use riders to strike and bounce away to safety. Keep them out of range of being attacked since their defense isn't great. Also, since riders are vulnerable to attacks, if you know an opponent is threatening to attack your city, don't put a rider there. Put warriors in your frontline cities for better defense. Leaving a rider in a city on the front lines is just asking for a siege. Normally, riders cannot move through fog any faster than a warrior. However, if you use 2 riders in tandem, sometimes called a slingshot, you can clear out fog with a pair of riders to explore faster. If you get really lucky, you can slingshot to clear out fog, then hit and bounce to siege a city and win. Now let's talk about some intermediate tips. Rider spam, riders plus roads, mid-game tech and effective ways to get giants, and knights. First, let's talk about rider spam. Rider spam just means getting a lot of riders and making that the bulk of your army. Most Oumaji games come down to riders, roads, and giants. In the early game, you can use rider spam without roads to attack fast before your opponent gets to villages or creates much of an army. This works best on tiny maps or maps where you meet your opponent in the first few turns. While a neighboring tribe puts their resources into cities or tech, you can build up a rider army to attack from a safe distance, claim cities when you know you can keep them, and force your opponent to play defensively. Keep track of kills on your riders to get a veteran. Use that unit to siege a city after it gets its 3rd kill. A veteran rider with 15 hit points is more likely to keep a city than one with only 10. And now, a word from our sponsor.
Behold, the mighty Hamu, a band of 5 Oumaji so small, yet so brave, it defies the very laws of nature. Across the 4 corners of Polytopia, Only the Hamu rises above the rest with speed, skill, and the majestic Shebra under their saddle. Who needs warriors, archers, or defenders when you have the Hamu? With the power of your Hamu, you command the desert, and with roads, you conquer it. Celebrate your triumphs by building grand monuments. Each stone stands as a testament to the Hamu, the heart and spirit of the Oumaji tribe. While your enemies are stuck in the sand, you are blitzing across the desert with the speed and determination of, 5 people working together. Join Oumaji today. Ride the desert. Build those roads. Crush your enemies. And remember, size doesn't matter when you've got this much Hamu glory.
In the mid-game, after most of the villages are claimed, you need giants to gain ground. You can get the population for giants from lighthouses, population ruins, road connections, and farms. So how do you decide between farming and roads for your second tech after organization? Most times you take roads after org, as it helps massively in fights and helps to upgrade cities as well. Roads connect cities to the capital for population, allowing you to upgrade some cities that might only have one fruit. They help you find and get villages first. Roads give your riders double the movement and so many more options for attacking, retreating, and sieging. Remember that after connecting 5 cities with roads, that's 5 cities not including your capital, you get the Grand Bazaar Monument. Road connections plus that monument can get you that first giant if you aren't lucky enough to find population from ruins or lighthouses. But don't be greedy. Do not leave your rider on a ruin or village if there's a good chance you can't keep it. Bounce back to safety. Survive to fight another day. Here are some more wonderful examples of rider-road combinations. You can attack with a full hit point rider, take some damage, then bounce that weak unit to a ruin or village. Go for a capital snipe. Move into attack, go for a vulnerable capital, and block to prevent an unsiege. More about blocking later. Here's my favorite. Roads let you move in from farther away and position your units around a sieging unit. If you can block all the tiles around the city, you can pull off a Houdini vanishing trick. Okay, enough about roads. What about other tech? Farming is great for Oumaji. You might get farms before roads if your cities are far apart or if you can get a quick giant. Typically, though, you want farms after roads. Go for farming when you can use it to upgrade cities. Farms plus roads is also a great way to get you your first giant. There are some exceptions to taking farming and roads after organization. If you're on a water-heavy map, like a big middle lake, you may want fishing as your second tech. And if you see a mountain ruin, getting climbing for the ruin usually pays off. Our final intermediate tip is to go for knights in the late game. You don't need roads to pull off a great knight chain, but they certainly help. Remember, you can move 6 tiles with a knight and roads. Watch our movement guide for details on how knights, riders, and roads can synergize. A link to the movement guide is in the description. Now, let's get into some advanced tips. The most skilled Oumaji players know that the key to winning is not pushing into your opponent's territory. Instead, the aim is to isolate your opponent and effectively cut off their expansion. This works well against Cymanti. You build up a mass of riders just outside their reach, and since Cymanti has no roads, only boosting, riders and roads as Oumaji can effectively contain them. Let's talk about blocking. Every unit in Polytopia has a zone of control, which limits where other units can move. Unless those other units have the sneak ability like a cloak or a hexapod, go watch the movement guide for more about that. Here, after moving a giant to the village, Blue positions units in front of the giant, blocking and preventing Yellow from hitting the giant and knocking them off the village. Here, Oumaji wants this village in the Quetzali terrain. He positions 3 riders between the village he wants to capture and the Quetzali forces to prevent those enemy riders from knocking his unit off the village. Usually you want population for a quick giant, but border expansion can be helpful to remove your opponent's option to place and use neutral roads. See our video on borders versus population for more on that. A link to the video is in the description. If, for some strange reason, you are playing Oumaji on Archipelago, you can consider bridges instead of a navy. Bridges are also a good alternative to navy in the late game on lakes maps once you already have roads. Why invest in a couple of new techs and naval upgrades when roads across the water work better? Lastly, if things progress far enough in the late game, go for construction to get windmills for more giants. You might even want to burn a forest for a farm if it gets you another giant. Consider potential market spots when placing your windmills to make the most income. Markets make 1 star per turn for every level of adjacent production buildings. That's our Oumaji guide. Huge thanks to these Poly Champions League members for their help with the guide. Go watch more of Zyrtic's amazing Polytopia animation. They are so good. A link to Zyrtic's YouTube is in the description. Please like and subscribe. It helps us a lot. Join our Discord and our league. Come play Polytopia with us. A link to the Discord server is in the description. Take care. See you on the next one.